I am back with week 3 for the PSL. Week 2 was supposed to be against Lux, but due to other obligations he had to drop out of the league. This week we are facing Z, coach of the Castelia City Cresselias. His team is up on the screen. This week I will not be bringing weather because as you can see he does have that Vulcania, which I really do not want to take a sun-boosted Fire Blast or a rain-boosted Steam Eruption, which would both tear through my team quite a bit. First up, I am bringing a max defense Metagross, which completely falls his physical attackers, except for a Landorus Earthquake. But I am running the Shukaberry, so that will not do that much damage to me. I have Clear Body, which will stop its attack from going lower, from Intimidate from Landorus and Hitmontop. I have Ice Punch to take out the Landorus as long as it does not have a Yachi Berry. It hits Goodra super effectively, it hits Whimsicott super effectively, it hits Leavanny super effectively, it hits Togekiss super effectively. I have Zen Headbutt for his Megalopunny and his Hitmontop, and I have Meteor Mash for Stab to hit everything else with. Metagross is also my Stealth Rocker, since his most likely leads would be either Registeel, Leavanny, or Landorus. Landorus can set up rocks. It's also a good U-turner. Leavanny can set up webs, and Registeel can also set up rocks. So I will be leading out with Metagross most of the time because it does do quite well against his Landorus and Leavanny, and if he leads off with Registeel, I can just set up the rocks, and he will most likely also set up his rocks, which I am fine with. Next up, I am bringing Mandibuzz. This time it is special defensive variant to help deal with Goodra if it is Spexed locked into Draco Meteor, then I can easily roost up on that as it loses its special attack. I have Foul Play to hit his physical attackers hard, Toxic to help stall out the Goodra and the Umbreon and the Volcanion. It is a somewhat good wall to Volcanion in special defense form, and quite a few of his physical attackers, such as his Hitmontop and Leavanny, will not be doing that much to it. Even if his Hitmontop is running Stone Edge, it will not do that much even to a non-defensive Mandibuzz. I have Defog to get rid of the rocks, as well as the webs. The webs aren't as important since my team is somewhat on the slow side this time around. It's mainly to get rid of rocks on my side of the field, which will be important for another mon that I have coming up, and that is its main role. Next up, I am bringing Politoed, special defensive with Water Absorb. This is to really check that Volcanion, which will not be 4-hit KO will only 4-hit KO my Politoed unless he is Gracium Z with the Solar Beam, which I will have to scout out for, or if he is a Specs Hidden Power Electric, which he might bring. I am running Ice Beam just for the good coverage it has over his team. I have Encore to lock in his Vulcanion into a move that won't do that much damage to me, or maybe his Registeel or his Leavanny, or maybe his Umbreon into a supporting move, as well as maybe his Whimsicott into a supporting move, because I do know Zia likes to run his Prankster Whimsicott with Leech Seed and Sub and such as that, so I could lock him into that. This Politoed can beat out most Vulcanian sets. If it is a subset, I can Encore him into Substitute. I have Haze to stop setup if he is bringing a Landorus with maybe Rock Polish or Swords Dance. And that's about it. Next up, I have my Mega Gardevoir, which is running speed, so I might want to get rid of webs for that. I have Wish and Heal Bell to heal up my walls, because if a certain amount of his team goes down, specific walls can wall out the rest of his team. I have Heal Bell to get rid of Toxic and Paralysis, which he could easily run on his Umbreon and Registeel, and maybe his Togekiss. Hyper Voice for the hard-hitting stab to deal with Umbreon and Megalopunny, and can go past subs if his Whimsicott is that Prankster variant with Substitute. Thunderbolt to hit a lot of the rest of his team super effectively. Thunderbolt is really there for Vulcanian, so that I outspeed it and can take it out if one of my Mons goes down and I don't have my Politoed. Next up, I am bringing my Conkeldurr with an Assault Vest, running Special Defense and Max Attack. Special Defense is there so that I can, of his special Mons, take a hit and KO it back with either an Ice Punch or Drain Punch, maybe a knockoff for that Mismagius, and to get rid of items in general. I am running Guts because I do expect him to maybe burn me with a Will-O-Wisp from the Mismagius, or paralyze me with Thunder Wave from Registeel, or maybe not Umbreon, Toxic me from Umbreon or Registeel. And then my attacks will be hard hitting, but mostly for Mismagius if it decides to burn me, which is my plan, to lull him into a false sense of security, thinking that he can just burn me. And next up, the reason why I have Defog to get rocks off of my side of the field is because I am bringing my Dragonite with Weakness Policy. Most of his Mons, if they can hit me super effectively, with that multi-scale up, they will not be able to OHKO me, and then I will get that Weakness Policy boost, giving me +2 attack. I am running Dragon Dance so that I can, after one, I will be able to outspeed everything on his team except Megalopunny and Scarfed Landorus. I have Substitute because if he decides to bring in like Umbreon in on it and try and Toxic me, or Registeel try and paralyze me so that I will not have the speed, I can sub on it and set up Dragon Dances. I have Ice Punch, which hits a good chunk of his team, and Dragon Claw for Stab, which hits the rest of his mons neutrally. And that is it for my team. So my game plan for this is to whittle his team down with my walls, setting up Toxics, healing my walls up with Gardevoir, and hopefully get that Dragonite weakness policy sweep, which would be nice. And now let's go into the battle. Here we are with the game, and like I said in the team builder, I will be leading off with Metagross, seeing as how it fares quite well against his team, and if he decides to lead off with something like the Mismagius or the Vulcanian, I do have switch-ins for them. And as I lead off with my Metagross, he decides to lead off with his Megalopunny. He goes for the Fake Out, which is fine, and I flinch. I go for the Stealth Rocks, expecting him to either switch or go for the High Jump Kick, which I know I can live 2 High Jump Kicks as he goes into Vulcania. This leads me to switch out into my Politoed, which is my Vulcanian counter. However, he double switches into his Whimsicott, which is a nice play by him. Fearing the grass move, I do switch out of my Politoed into my Mandibuzz as he goes for the taunt, maybe expecting a Toxic, which I did carry. Taunt does not affect Dark type mons, so my Mandibuzz is fine. Knowing that I can take a Moonblast, I go for the Toxic, and expecting him to go for a Moonblast again. Or to switch, I go for the Roost, knowing that I could whittle down his Whimsicott with the Toxic damage. He goes into his Regirock or Registeel, expecting either a Toxic or a Stealth Rocks. I go into my Conkeldurr, which would be a free switch. Seeing as how I am Guts, the Toxic wouldn't matter. It would actually make me stronger. Expecting him to go into his Mismagius, I go for the knockoff. He, however, goes into his Whimsicott, which is fine by me because I knocked off his leftovers, which will mean that the Toxic will take him down faster. Expecting a Moonblast, I go into my Gardevoir, knowing that I can eat that up. Expecting him to switch out, seeing as how his attacks won't be doing much to my Gardevoir. I go for the Wish, however he stays in, and he goes for the Toxic, which is fine because as well as Wish, I am running the Heal Bell on this, and I can stall out his Toxic. I go for the Heal Bell, expecting him to either taunt me and die to Toxic, or to switch out. He, however, goes for the Leech Seed, as I cure my poison, and the Toxic brings him down to 6%. I switch out and go into my Mandibuzz, expecting him to go for like a taunt or the Toxic again. And and let him die to the toxic damage. And now I have my Mandibuzz in as he goes out into Megalopunny, not wanting to take a high jump kick because I am specially defensive, not physically defensive. I go out into my Metagross knowing I can take 2 high jump kicks, and I have a high percentage chance to take him out with a Zen Headbutt. However, I do get a low roll here, meaning that he will take me out. Kinda wish I was running Rocky Helmet instead of Shuka, since he did not bring his Landorus. I go out into my Conkeldurr, bluffing that I have the Mach Punch, and I go for a knock off, knowing that I can take a high jump kick from the Megalopunny, expecting him to switch into Miss Medius, and I knock it out because the rock's damage broke its sash. He goes for the fake out. Right here, I have a small chance of living the high jump kick, and I don't want any other mons taking the high jump kick damage. However, lucky me, he does miss, meaning that I am not knocked out. The way I've been playing my Conkeldurr, I am bluffing that I am banded into knockoff and expecting him to be Specs Vulcanian. I know that I could take a hit and do massive damage with Drain Punch, but this damage shows me that he is more of a bulky Vulcanian, and I go for the Thunder Punch, which had a chance of taking it out. However, I do get another low roll. I switch out of my Conkeldurr to preserve it and hopefully later on get a wish off into it as he goes for the Sludge Wave, and gets the poison, which is quite unfortunate because otherwise I could easily take on this Vulcan and stay at a high enough health where I could easily switch out my Politoed and bring it in later and hopefully encore his Registeel into rocks or a status move. He goes out into his Goodra. I just sit in with Politoed, expecting him to be Specs and take me out. However, he does not, and that damage off the Sludge Wave tells me that he is not Spexed, which means that my Mandibuzz can easily take it on, as it is a specially defensive variant. I bring in my Mandibuzz, knowing that he is encored into Sludge Wave, expecting him to switch or to click Sludge Wave. I go for the Defog so that my Dragonite's multi-skill is not broken later on. And I go for the Roost, knowing that a Registeel cannot do much to my Mandibuzz. And I want this at full to take on the Goodra later. He goes for the Thunder Wave, expecting him to go for Stealth Rocks or like a Seismic Toss. I go into my Dragonite and expecting him to go for the Thunder Wave. I put up a sub and I start to set up Dragon Dances. Unfortunately, I am not running Earthquake on this because I wanted the Ice Punch to deal with his Whimsicott and maybe his Togekiss if he brought it. And right here I am just trying to get off as much damage as possible. So I just click Dragon Claw. Lucky for me, I get a critical hit. Right here I go into my Conkeldurr thinking that I outspeed, but I do not know my speed tiers correctly, and that Registeel is base 50, not lower than 45, which is Conkeldurr. I go for the Thunderbolt, knowing that I can take a Iron Head from it. This brings me into a paralyzed Gardevoir versus his Goodra. I just go for the Hyper Voice to get damage, and this is basically game, unless I get really unfortunate with the paralysis, because it is a special defensive Mandibuzz, and right here I just go for the Toxic, and that is GG, because I can stall out any move he goes for, seeing as how he is not spexed. I just go for the Roost for whatever damage he does to me. I will most likely be back at full, and his best move is Draco Meteor, and that wouldn't even do enough damage to put me in range at -2, and that is the game. GG, it's Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz putting in the work with that Toxic and being an awesome wall. Hope you like this video. Comment down below what you thought of this battle, and I will see you next time for week 4 of the PSL.